Greetings to all conference participants. My name is Tereshchenkova. I am Associate Professor of the Department of Innovative Technologies and Technical Devices of Navigation. Title of our article is Calculation of Storm Fuel Supply of a Seagoing Vessel, Solving Professionally Oriented Tasks using Cloud Services. The information and communicative competency today is an integral part of professional training in any sphere. Due to the fact that nowadays big amount of work is done and monitored in the remote mode, the requirement is stipulated for every specialist to be able to use digital technologies professionally. For a future seafarer, it means, first of all, the ability to use modern technologies as information and data resource, and also it presupposes the ability to work with software libraries, to create databases, to perform necessary calculations by means of cloud services inclusive. This article proposes a strategy for solving an applied problem using an information modeling approach to the analysis and evolution of the technological process, namely the algorithm for calculating the required voyage and storm fuel reserves of marine vessel. Both office spreadsheets and cloud services were used to implement the mathematical model for solving this problem. The professional qualification of shipping industry workers must comply with the International Maritime. Maritime academic graduates over a period of many years have proved to be competitive specialists. This fact enabled their employment in hiring international shipping companies. In the context of IMO requirements, information technology as a technological science and a subject form a holistic information space of knowledge aimed at solving any task related to professional competences. The main objective of course Information Technologies, which is taught during the first year of education in Maritime Academy, is the provision of the digital literacy of future shipping industry personnel. On the current slide, you can see, like example, which task type the content of academic material of the course Information Technologies includes. When teaching the course Information Technologies, the computational and graphical potential of Microsoft Excel and Google Sheets were used for computer modeling. So, the subject of the research is the newest conceptual approaches to the usage of computer-based modeling in the process of practical problem solving for the formation of professionally oriented competences. The paper objectives: the methodology development for the technological process modeling on the basis of the spreadsheet Microsoft Excel and by means of cloud services used in particular. The specific position among all cloud services belongs to the Google Workspace package. Google Workspace is a web application based on the cloud computing, which provides both teachers and students of higher education establishments with the instruments required for the effective communication and cooperation. The main advantages of Google Workspace usage for the educational purposes from the point of view of a user are minimum requirements to the hardware. Google Workspace supports all operation systems and client software programs, which are usually used by students and educational establishments. The work with the documents is done via any mobile device which supports web browsing. All Google Workspace for education instruments are free of charge. Let's analyze in detail as an example one of the tasks studied during the course Information Technologies and which has multiple purposes. We need to determine the amount of fuel stores required for a period of independent sailing of a ship. To provide for the safe operation and exploitation of a ship, it is necessary to calculate correctly the stability, the buoyancy, the trimming, and other vital seagoing characteristics. When determining these parameters, it is required to take into consideration the correct ship loading and the cargo plane, which should be in all respects correct and in compliance with all the rules and requirements. Before preparing a cargo plane, it is necessary first of all to pay attention to the storage of all shipboard supplies, among which fuel is considered in the first place. The fuel stores calculations is a complex task which must take into account many factors. As you can see on the slides, these are the factors that influence the general fuel consumption on ships and factors that influence the fuel consumption rate on ships. When determining the amount of fuel supply, it is necessary to take into consideration the fuel ration en route as well as the fuel ration at anchor, in which case the consumption depends on the operating principle of loading and discharging procedures. After the calculation of the amount of fuel stores with the account for all the above-mentioned factors, it is necessary to add to the received number approximately 15 to 20% more to establish the supply needed for the case of stormy weather. In some shipping companies, there are some norms of the amount of fuel supply for the case of stormy weather established by usually they do not exceed 20% of the fuel amount calculated for a voyage. For the small power ship engines, the percentage of the fuel supply for the case of stormy weather is smaller. We can see on the next slides that in summer for all areas of the world ocean, 3 to 5%. But there are some exceptions, and in winter period, the percentage of the supply for the case of stormy weather depends on the sea where a ship is operating. There are different methods of ship supply calculations. For example, to calculate the amount of fuel needed for the voyage with the account for the amount required for the case of stormy weather, it is possible to use the formula. Taking into consideration the fact that the amount of fuel supply immediately depends on the voyage duration, it is necessary to determine the sailing time first with the account of possible delays. It is necessary to take into consideration the time of ship's berthing time in ports, which in turn depends greatly on the amount of the cargo to be loaded or discharged. In that case, the formula to be used for the amount of fuel stores calculation will look like following. The mathematical description of the bunkering procedure optimization can be represented by the following correlations. For purpose, in order to explain the CAD as a problem-solving algorithm, it was decided to create the framework for the spreadsheets which contains all necessary basic information. In this part of the research, it is proved, first of all, that the spreadsheet is a universal application which can be installed on all shipboard computers or can be used as online service. This fact allows for the creation and support of the unique database, both professional and copyrighted programs. Second of all, it has been demonstrated by the means of the example how to analyze a technical task and to optimize their further work. The use of Excel spreadsheets capabilities enables the automation of the calculation procedure, and developed efficient mathematical model takes into consideration all the impact factors that can influence the calculations. Before the suggested methodology was introduced into practical process, the authors made the teachers of professional subjects get familiarized with its content. During the process of familiarization, the teachers were suggested a questionnaire to complete with the purpose to determine the practicability of the suggested package. To prove the efficacy of the model developed, the real calculations were subject to expert appraisal. The expert commission consisted of 12 people who were asked to answer 16 questions after getting acquainted with the work of the author's computer model. The expert appraisal method is used to receive quantitative assessment of the qualitative characteristics by means of Likert scale. In this research, we have received the value of the concordance coefficient equal to 0.876. Since the coefficient of concordance varies from 0 to 1, it can be concluded that there is a high degree of agreement among the opinions of experts. Let's make conclusions. The article reveals the problem of professional training of specialists able to adapt easily and fast to the changing conditions and requirements of today in the context of information society globalization, who can use the latest achievements in the sphere of digital cloud technologies. The approbation results of the suggested methodology proved that such approach provides for the maximum involvement of cadets into the learning process, provokes the motivation to study, to analyze the problem and find appropriate solutions. That's all. Thank you for your attention.